Welcome to the Word for 2021. Today we're in Judges chapter 18. Only 6 years ago, the Barna Research Group conducted a poll. They presented a series of statements and then they asked whether people agreed with them completely or somewhat. There were 6 statements that were asked. I'd like to share those with you today. The first question they asked was this: the best way to find yourself is to look within yourself. As people answered that question, 91% of U.S. adults said that they agreed. 76% of Christians agreed with that statement. The second statement: people should not criticize someone else's lifestyle choices. 89% of U.S. adults agreed. 76% of Christians agreed. To be fulfilled in life, you should pursue the things that you desire most. 86% of adults agreed. 72% of Christians agreed with that statement. The highest goal in life is to enjoy it as much as possible. 84% of Americans agreed. 66% of Christians agreed that the highest goal in life was to get as much enjoyment out of it as possible. And then, number 5, people can believe whatever they want as long as these beliefs don't affect society. 79% of Americans believed. 61% of Christians believed that statement. And then number 6, any kind of sexual expression between two consenting adults is acceptable. 69% of adults agreed. 40% of Christians agreed with that statement. When we don't know the truth of what God's Word says, then we'll do whatever we think is best, and that's how we will believe and act. Within the slide of our country's morals, the direction of our political parties, and the educational systems today, I'm sure that the percentages that were answered in these questions is much higher today, just 6 years later. Here in chapter 18, the tribe of Dan, or the Danites, they set up a culture of false worship, idolatry in Israel. We read in this chapter that they came to Micah's house. Now, in chapter 17 yesterday, we learned that Micah had set up his own religion, his own false religion, with gods and a Levite priest as his own. Well, the Danites, they took Micah's gods and that false worship that he had set up, and they took it with them for their own. They also took that false priest, that Levite, and they said, "We want you to be our spiritual leader." That false leader agreed. And instead of just being a false teacher in a home, he now had a following of thousands. He told them what they wanted to hear. Like a cancer, the nation spiraled downward. It started in a home, and then it spread to an entire tribe. Now they were filled with immorality and violence. How did the nation get to this point? Whenever God's word is rejected or neglected, people will always lose freedom and security. They will do what is right in their own eyes. The rule of law will be replaced by mob rule and by tyranny. That's what we see here in chapter 18. Intimidation and threats of violence ruled the day then. Unfortunately, we see the same thing happening today. People will also worship gods of their own making. Unfortunately, the gods that man makes, they bring a false hope, they bring false security, and false peace. Whenever God is rejected, whenever God's word is rejected or neglected, again, people will do whatever they want to do. And the phrase that we read in the book of Judges, "everyone did as he saw fit," will be the rule of the day. Unfortunately, without God, there is no peace. And that's what we see in these final chapters of the book of Judges. Thank you for joining the Word for 2021.